Wednesday afternoon to you, 4 o'clock, time for Sports for CLE. Thanks for joining us. Browns getting ready for that Sunday 4 o'clock matchup with the Denver Broncos in Denver with Dorian Thompson-Robinson as the starting quarterback. Colin Cowherd from The Herd with Colin Cowherd on the Herd hierarchy, the top 10 teams in the NFL.
Number 10.
I don't know what to do with Cleveland. I'll put him here. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I guess the quarterback going forward, but they did beat the Ravens and Steelers in back-to-back weeks. They have never done that in franchise history. They've won 5 of their last 6 games. I think Myles Garrett's got an argument to be the MVP of the league. They've got a really good roster. I like their GM. I like their coach. I love elements of their defense. I don't know how far you can go with DTR at quarterback. We'll see. It'll be a fun watch. Cleveland at 10.
With that, let's welcome in Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. And Tim, that's a fair assessment. I don't think anybody knows what you're going to see from Dorian Thompson-Robinson moving forward.
Yeah, and I mean, just the fact that he hit the jump he made from start 1 to start 2 is pretty significant, where against the Ravens, he looked, confused out there, really struggled, had 3 turnovers, and never really looked like there was going to be much of a threat offensively. Whereas versus the Steelers, he was much more protective with the football, a little more decisive. I think, was kind of tied back just a little bit with the game plan, and pretty smartly because of that Steelers pass rush. But I mean, the ceiling for DTR, as a 5th round pick is really not going to be very high. I mean, I feel like for every Brock Purdy, you're going to get 1,000 guys who really never come close to Brock Purdy. And I think as long as DTR can kind of get close to Jacoby Brissett levels, you're not asking him to be Jacoby Brissett, but if you can get close to it, this team should be more than capable of still getting to the playoffs. And even if they're not going to win the Super Bowl, getting in playoffs with this team still important, because that's how you build culture, is, continue to make those playoff runs.
So some news from Berea. Guys not practicing today. Grant Delpit with the thigh, Juan Thornhill with the calf, Anthony Walker with the hamstring, Denzel Ward a banged-up shoulder, Marquise Goodwin with a concussion. Now, the Browns did make a roster move. They designated Jordan Kanasic to come back from the injured list, and a guy that's valuable on special teams and as a linebacker. They also signed Duron Harmon to the practice squad. And Harmon's an interesting guy. Is a veteran and a pretty good one. 77.6 coverage grade in 2022. That was the 12th highest for safeties. Played with the Raiders, and again, it's a really good signing, and you needed a veteran kind of guy. McLeod's gone for the year. Thornhill's kind of banged up. So a guy that's had success at the NFL level, it's a really good move.
Kind of surprising he was a free agent. I didn't really think of that, but when you look at Duron Harmon, his career, 23 career interceptions, 43 pass breakups, he's won 3 Super Bowls with New England. So in a sense, like bringing in Joe Flacco, you're bringing in another guy who has been there, who has done that, has won a couple titles, gotten deep into the playoffs a bunch of times for a team that, by and large, most of these guys have only been in the playoffs maybe once or twice in their career. These are guys that understand, how important it is to be playing your best football in November and into December. And, first time since 2020, the Browns are going to play some very meaningful games in December where they could really get into the playoffs. So getting a veteran like Duron Harmon, that's a sneaky good signing, especially because you lost that veteran presence in Rodney McLeod for the season. And, of course, not having Grant Delpit or Juan Thornhill in practice is difficult. So, because after those 2 guys, until Harmon gets on the active roster, it's Ronnie Hickman, and you don't want to put an undrafted free agent rookie in a position that maybe he's not ready to succeed in just yet. But again, depth, veteranship, good move by Andrew Berry.
All right, so Dorian Thompson-Robinson met with the media today, talked about his takeaways from the win against the Steelers.
I mean, obviously you're going to have things every week you need to clean up. I think the biggest thing is as an offense, we played on time. Try to negate their rushes as much as possible. I think TJ only had 1 sack. He had a couple QB hits on me, but other than that, I think we played on time, both in the pass game and in the run game. Stuck with it. At times it's not going to be easy, especially going against a defense like that. So second half, getting a couple 3-and-outs. We're working to fix those this week, but ultimately I was happy with the game.
And Tim, I know you wrote an article. So what's next? For Dorian Thompson-Robinson after a win. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with what they did, not asking him to do too much. Matter of fact, it's smart.
Yeah, 100%. And, it makes perfect sense when you think of the game plan because, again, the Steelers and the Ravens, the two teams he's faced this season, two of the best teams to pressure in the quarterback. And now the next two teams he's going to see is if he starts these next two games, the Broncos and the Rams, you're looking at the other end of the spectrum. I wrote about in my preview of the Browns-Broncos game, Denver's pass rush, not even close to the Steelers, just 19 sacks this season, one of the lowest numbers in the league. So certainly I think an opportunity for Kevin Stefanski to maybe get just a little more aggressive with DTR and allow him to take a couple deep shots, which I thought, in the second half, it felt like the offense was very boxed in. And it felt like, just waiting for, when they were going to turn him loose, when they were going to let him to go with the double move. And you can understand why they didn't. But I think that's something I would imagine they'll have a little more trust in DTR as he gets a little more experience to be willing to take at least one or two deep shots a game. He doesn't have to complete them. He doesn't have to be like Aaron Rodgers officially in the deep ball, but you have to show it once in a while to make a defense respected because, when it comes to those type of splash plays, it only takes one to have an impact. And the other thing I think he needs to continue to improve on, that I think he will over time, scoring touchdowns. He's had one touchdown drive in 8 quarters as an NFL quarterback. I feel like, quarterbacks, you have to judge them on, are they scoring the football? And right now, they've only, like I said, they've only got the one touchdown to show for it. But again, I think that's something that, just comes with time, just comes with learning your receivers, learning the speed of the NFL, continuing to master the playbook for a backup quarterback. The most important thing is protecting the football, and he was obviously much better with it against the Steelers than he was against the Ravens. Now is going to can continue to do that, but add a little more scoring. And the fact that he led a game-winning drive in the last 2 minutes tells me that there is more to DTR, I think, than you think, because there's some clutchness to him. And I think he's got an ability to be at least a solid backup. And you just need those guys to protect the ball and occasionally hit some big throws. Yeah,
and the other thing is use your legs. You saw the athleticism. Don't be afraid. Don't take hits. I'm not saying you need to take needless hits, but get 5 yards, get out of bounds. All right, before we go to break, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hi, Dave. Danielle. Hey, what a great game. I'm so happy for the guys. They're pulling all together and working as a team, and I'm just grinning from ear to ear. Shout out to special teams. I don't want to hear anymore that, special teams doesn't count. And now, national media, they're saying that we play ugly football. Well, you know what? I love ugly football. I will take ugly football any given day of the week, and especially on Sundays.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. You know what? Winning ugly is winning, and that's really all that matters.
Yeah, there's two different narratives that kind of came out of Sunday's win. It's that the Browns kind of out-Steelered the Steelers to win that game, and then the other one was, they just won with old school trust the ball, defense and special teams, and even in the NFL it can work. And we've seen, throughout the season, the Browns have found ways to win, and a reason for that is because Kevin Stefanski's, I think, had a better grasp of understanding the field position battle, mostly because when you have a great defense, don't be afraid to try and pin the other team back and make them go 80, 85 yards as opposed to make them only letting them go 50 to 55 yards, because you make them go those extra 30 yards, that's extra chances for that defense to get a sack or, get an interception or force a turnover or something like that. And when you have a defense like that, you coach and play to your strengths, and a defense that can stymie any offense anytime they're on the field, get a takeaway and put an offense in great position. You don't necessarily need to worry about trying to win shootouts if you have a defense that can play like this. And that's why kicking matters, especially, on the other side, Dustin Hopkins, 2 game-winning kicks in a row. We talked about Andrew Berry, making a shrewd move with Ron Harmon. I mean, trading a 2025 7th-round pick for Dustin Hopkins, I mean, that's about as good a trade, for the Browns as I think he could ask for.
Yeah, and the other thing is, there's something to be said for out-Steelering the Steelers. Remember, that's a franchise that hasn't had a losing record under Mike Tomlin. Keep that in mind. Tim Bielik and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. We'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
An Ohio lottery machine. The holiday scratch-offs are worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
Non-winning tickets have a second chance.
Is that Miriam Bright? The first ever $30 holiday game! You can get them now? I'm gonna go ask if I can play.
We continue talking Browns with Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. This is Jesse. Why is it that no one really wants to give the Cleveland Browns their due reward on having a good game or even having a bad game, but, and still winning? It's like when someone mentioned the Browns, all of a sudden the commentators go to something else as if they're just want to hate on the Browns.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Tim, I would say, especially in the NFL these days, NFL is an offensive league, so Browns are a defense and special teams team. We know that. And the other thing is a lot of hype with the Browns the last couple of seasons that didn't live up to it. So people are nationally, people are, a little hesitant, but none of it matters. If they go out and win, eventually they're going to have to give them credit.
Yeah, I mean, whether you win pretty or win ugly, 7-3 is still 7-3. Right now, the Browns sit, in a fairly comfortable spot with that number one wild card spot, a game ahead of the Texans and the Steelers for that, those wild card spots. And I think part of it is, like you said, they're not a flashy team. It's very much substance over style right now, and it kind of has to be with the injuries they've had on offense, with Sean Watson out for the season, Nick Chubb out for the season, to some extent Jack Conklin out for the season, although DeJuan Jones has stepped in and done an amazing job on that side of the football at that offensive tackle spot. But, there's just not a sexy team, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, in a year where it feels like quarterback play isn't as good as it has been in past years, maybe defense can take you a little further. I also think it's maybe people can be a little hesitant to jump on the bandwagon just because I feel like, because Dorian Thompson-Robinson is a rookie 5th-round quarterback, that, he hasn't thrown a touchdown yet in 2 starts. You wonder how far can he take you? How far can you really go in the playoffs? I think remembering that we've seen in recent years, A.J. McCarron started that playoff game for the Bengals against the Steelers, the infamous one that had the hard hit on Antonio Brown and the extra penalties at the end of the game. And last year for the Dolphins, Skylar Thompson, a former K-State quarterback, was starting for the Dolphins in a playoff game against the Bills, and they played him close. So, I think it's mostly just about, the Browns just continuing to need to earn the respect of the national pundits. And, the more they go into the playoffs, they continue to have success there. I think that's when you earn your respect.
So Joe Flacco signed to the practice squad, at least for now. He met with the media and talked about what his role with the team will be.
I haven't really looked that much into it. I want to take it day by day, and listen, I'm a veteran guy that's been around a lot at this point in the season with a team that's doing well. So I think there's a lot of different things that I can bring to the table. But I honestly just want to keep it day to day and focus on what I can. And right now, that's just kind of learning the offense and becoming a part of the team. So,
what do you think you got left?
Well, listen, I think when you start talking about that, you can talk till you're blue in the face and try to promote yourself or not or whatever it is. But, however this ends up playing out, I think you can look back at the way I finished the last game of the season last year. Not that, we were able to win that game, but I definitely believe I can still play. And, like I said, I'm focused on the day-to-day, and as long as I can do that, then whatever happens, I think that whatever my role ends up being and wherever this takes me, then I'll do my best at that.
And Tim, here's the thing. He might never start a game, or he might start a bunch of games. It gives the Browns an option, a guy who, there is not anything that's going to happen on the field that Joe Flacco has not seen. Remember, he's Super Bowl MVP, he's played in the league, 99, whatever it is, wins.
Yeah, not just that, 15 career playoff starts, 10-5 as a starting quarterback in the playoffs, although I'll say it again, wins are not a quarterback stat, but you look at some of these numbers, particularly touchdown interception ratio, quarterback rating, better in the postseason than in the regular season. So I think what Flacco brings is, the understanding of what it takes to win those types of games in the late in the regular season as well as the playoffs. And I think that kind of information could be invaluable to Dorian Thompson-Robinson because, while Deshaun Watson's not with the team, obviously, getting the rehab with the shoulder, DTR will still have a veteran quarterback who's been there, who's done that, who understands, just the ebbs and flows of these important games and can really help settle him down. down, get him focused on what kind of matters. And, the way the season's gone for the Browns, they've already utilized 3 quarterbacks. I mean, it wouldn't be surprising at all if Joe Flacco ended up having to start a game for whatever reason. But even if he doesn't, I just think the veteran resource he has, the fact that he's seen so much in the NFL, it's probably nothing but a good thing for DTR to have that on the sideline in addition to his coaches.
Well, the other thing is, wins and losses isn't a quarterback stat. But, man, with this defense, you might want it to be if you're a veteran quarterback without question. All right, I know you wrote an article. Do the Browns need more from Dorian Thompson-Robinson to go to the playoffs, do you think?
I think so. I'm not saying he needs to be like, a top 10 starting quarterback. That's not realistic, especially, for a guy who was a 5th-round pick. Again, Brock Purdy is the outlier of outliers, Mr. Irrelevant in last year's draft, and now he's one of the game's best starting quarterbacks. I think, that's the outlier. I think if you're the Browns, when you're looking forward DTR, get a little more of the offense, get a little more ability to finish drives with points, especially the touchdowns. He had that one late in the first half that David Njoku couldn't hang on to in the end zone, just a contested battle. Njoku catches that touchdown. We're talking about something a little different there, but I think there is a little more the Browns can get out of DTR. And I said before, I think he can get there just a little bit more because he's seen a little bit. He's played 2 games against some really tough defenses. He has an understanding of how to prepare. And the biggest thing also, he's getting more practice time with the ones. And I think that's an invaluable resource. We saw what kind of difference it made against the Steelers, that it seemed like he had pretty good timing, with Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, David Njoku. Even though there were some drops, it seemed like the timing between those guys was better. The more DTR throws at him in practice, the more I think, they'll develop some chemistry. And they'll understand, how much more they kind of need to help their young quarterback to take a little bit off his shoulders. But I think the big reason I think they're going to need a little more from him, you can't count on your defense to hold everybody to 10 points the rest of the season, especially, when you look at the Broncos who are red hot right now. You got the Jaguars coming to Cleveland in a few weeks, Justin Fields and the Bears. And, of course, on Christmas Eve, C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans, they suddenly look like a playoff team, a team that, could win the AFC South. That could be a wild card matchup potential preview on Christmas Eve in Houston. So you're not going to keep every offense down. So eventually you're going to need your quarterback to score a little bit. That said, like I said, he needs to do a little more, and I think some of that just comes with experience.
Now, the other thing is he's not going to be facing the Ravens and the Steelers every week. The teams you mentioned, while they're good teams, they don't have that the defensive front 7 that those 2 teams do. All right, observations on every team after Week 11. This is from Pro Football Focus. For the Browns, Ogbo Okoronkwo had the 2nd highest run stop percentage of any defender this week who played more than 10 snaps against the run. Ended the day with an impressive 27.3 mark, bettered by only Milton Williams. And you look at that, Okoronkwo, he's been every bit as good as you hoped he would have been. I mean, if you had to go with him as the only guy and you didn't add Zadarius Smith, it'd still be a really good defensive line. You add Zadarius Smith, and you're getting what you're getting on that defensive line.
Okoronkwo has been a heck of a find, by Andrew Berry. This was kind of a sleeper guy that, really hadn't produced till last season in Houston when, he finally got a chance to start and you saw the numbers come up. And, he's been living in teams' backfields. Only has 3.5 sacks, but, 11 tackles for loss. That's tied with Myles Garrett. So he's been able to get in the backfield. There's the disruption right there. And I think anytime you're causing those negative plays, that's huge. That's what really kind of sets the tone for a defense is if you can – win those first downs. If you get an offense off schedule, if you don't let them hit that success rate number, 40% gain first down, 60% on second down. If you prevent an offense from doing that on a regular basis, the advantage goes to the defense, and that's just what they've been doing this entire season. And, obviously Myles Garrett has had such an impact with it. The guy can certainly win Defensive Player of the Year, but he's got some help with him. Even though it hadn't quite showed up in the sack department, Ogbo Okoronkwo, I think he's probably been everything Andrew Berry could have asked for out of that signing.
So linebacker Sione Takitaki talked today to the media about the reason for the Browns' improvement on the run defense, which has been dramatic.
I would say scheme-wise, obviously like we've been talking about, this whole year, just kind of that attack front that we have, letting those guys hit their spots. I say, you know, we got the best front four guys, man, in the league. So, you know, just letting those guys do their thing, letting us be behind them clean it up.
Let me translate. Boy, it's fun playing linebacker when you don't have a defensive tackle thrown into you.
I mean, we talked about that, last winter into the spring, that was something the Browns needed to fix, and my goodness, they attacked it extremely well. Dalvin Tomlinson, he's been an impact signing right away. Shelby Harris, that has been a steal, and he has been just as good as you could ask for. But also, how about Jordan Elliott this season? Coming into the last year of his rookie contract, playing like a guy who wants to get, big money somewhere. I think, the way he's been playing, he had a blocked field goal. He's been living in teams' backfields, 3 tackles for a loss, 2.5 sacks out of defensive tackle spot. They're rotating those 3 guys in, and they are really continuing to have an impact. I really believe, like I said with Elliott, I don't know if it's with the Browns, but it feels like the way he's playing, if he keeps it up, could be going for a big payday somewhere. But you got to credit, the additions they made at defensive tackle, like Sione Takitaki was saying, the scheme and allowing that front to attack and free up the linebackers to make those plays. I've said before, this team has a lot of players that play well downhill, and it's really translated. All
right, before we go to break, this from the Bleacher Report. Every team's most important remaining game on the schedule. Browns, Week 12 at the Broncos. So they're agreeing with Kevin Stefanski. The next game is the most important. They say if Cleveland can beat a surging potential wildcard competitor on the road to extend its winning streak to 4, this team will have a serious playoff shot. If not, it's easier to envision the wheels coming off. I don't know about that. I think, especially in the AFC, especially as relative to playoffs, it's a week-to-week kind of proposition.
Yeah, I definitely would not agree with that assessment that that's the most important game left on the season. I mean, I could probably say right now it's that game, that Week 16 trip to Houston with the Texans. Like I said, it's a potential wild card playoff matchup, even though you got the Jaguars coming into Cleveland in Week 14. So I look at that, as the more marquee game. That said, I think we have to remember that, the Browns are 7-3 in spite of not getting real consistent quarterback play. I mean, they've got 8 touchdown passes this entire season. They're 29th in net yards per attempt. And here they are at 7-3, still performing, still one of the better scoring teams in football. I think they're 13th right now. Look at the stats right now, almost 23 points a game. So they're scoring in spite of, average to below average quarterback play. I mean, you would have to expect, if they've done it already, they have an ability to continue it. I don't know. They don't need to do it every game, because at this point, you don't need to win every game. I think, 4 wins definitely gets you in the playoffs. 3 probably gets you in.
Tim Bielik and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we'll turn our attention more specifically to the Browns-Broncos matchup. Kevin Stefanski talks Russell Wilson when we return. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. Kevin Stefanski talked about what he has seen from Russell Wilson so far this season with the Broncos.
Russell's playing great. I've seen him play quite a bit over my career and just watching him. And I was fortunate enough to be part of the coaching staff down there at the Senior Bowl when he was coming out. So I got to know Russell for that week and just was an unbelievable person, unbelievable player. I think he's playing at a high level, like I mentioned, taking care of the football, running their offense really, really well, and is very capable of making those off-schedule plays that he's made his whole career. You've seen him do it in these games. He gets out of the pocket, and he can run. He can throw it to all areas of the field. So he's a major point of this offense.
And Tim, the other thing is, Sean Payton starting to understand what he can do still, what he does well, and he's playing to those things.
Yeah, it's kind of impressive this 4-week turnaround the Broncos have had, going from 1-5, and everybody's making fun of them, with the Jets and losing to New York when Nathaniel Hackett was the offensive coordinator. But I mean, credit to Sean Payton and Russell Wilson and the Broncos for turning this around. All of a sudden, they've won 4 straight. They've beaten the Bills in Buffalo. They've beaten the Chiefs. They came back to beat the Vikings on Sunday night. All of a sudden, this is a pretty dangerous team that's got wild card aspirations. And the turnaround with Russell Wilson, I think, has been a big part of that.
So I know you wrote an article, 3 things to know about the Broncos. Number 1, defense has rebounded very well from a historical low. We'll talk about that in a minute. Number 2, Russell Wilson thrown a lot of touchdowns, not a lot of yards. And number 3, sacks have been hard to come by. So take us through those things on your article with the Broncos.
Well, let's start with number 1. I think everybody remembers, what happened to the Broncos in Week 3 in Miami. They got absolutely dominated, 70-20, one of the biggest blowouts in NFL history. I mean, they were absolutely destroyed defensively in that game. But the last several games, especially the last 5, they've really picked it up a little bit. I mean, they haven't given up 30 points in the game since Week 4 against the Bears, which is a game they came back to win. So it seems like this defense is turning a corner for them, and a reason why they're doing it, they're taking the football away. I mean, they've got 19 takeaways so far this season. So that's second best right now in football. They've got a takeaway in 7 consecutive games. Even in just their last 3 alone, they've taken it away 12 times. So just as they were against Pittsburgh and Baltimore, the Browns got to be wary of the Broncos' ability to take the football away. Although, as I'll get to in a second, it's a different way than what the Steelers have done. Number 2, we talking about Russell Wilson. What stands out to me are a couple things. I mean, number 1, he's not throwing for a lot of yards, about 206.5 per game, which is 24th in the NFL. They're in 24th in the NFL in passing yards per game. But what he's doing is he's throwing touchdowns, 19 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So, I mean, that's almost a 5-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. That's tremendous. So it tells me they're finishing drives, and, he's finding a way to get the ball in the end zone. He's got some great receivers. Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, they're playing at a very good level. And, Russell Wilson showing, even at 35 years old, still got plenty in the tank. And then number 3, this is not a team that gets after the quarterback very well. They were one of the worst teams this season in pressure rate, even going back to, prior, going back into Sunday, the Broncos had just 17 sacks, heading into their game against the Vikings. They were able to get a pair to get them up to 19, but they've given up 32, so they just don't get after the quarterback very well. Their leading sackers, Jonathan Cooper and Nick Benito, each have 5.5, but they have only 2 other guys with 3 sacks, and after that, only 2 guys with even 1 sack, and one of them, Randy Gregory, isn't even on the team anymore. So you would have to imagine if you're the Browns, you're not as concerned about Denver's ability to get into the backfield and pressure Dorian Thompson-Robinson. It just hasn't quite been there. When you look at the Broncos, strength of that defense is in the secondary. Patrick Surtain at corner, Justin Simmons at safety.
So when you look at what you think the plan is for DTR and what you ask him to do, I don't think you want to get too crazy. You want to make the reads simple. You don't want him to sit there and have to process it. What does the game plan look like against a team that doesn't have great pass rush, but disguises coverage pretty well and has a good secondary?
I think it's just got to be, just to be smart with the football, just like Connie Wheels last week, make quick decisions and trust your eyes. I mean, we talked about, a veteran defense, a very talented secondary. I imagine, part of the game plan is you're going to see a lot of Patrick Surtain on Amari Cooper. So you may not be able to go to him as much. So you might have to lean on more on like Elijah Moore or David Njoku or Cedric Tillman, because they'll get, probably more coverage from guys like Fabian Moreau and the rest of that Denver secondary. So I think with DTR, they may get more opportunities to throw those intermediate passes because, like I said, there just isn't that much of a threat of a pass rush from the Broncos. But you still got to be wary of, making sure you're making smart decisions with the football, because again, Surtain is one of the best corners in the game. Justin Simmons is a high level safety, and they're on a roll with taking the football away. So it's kind of maybe a similar vein to what they were doing last week, with the exception of maybe now that you can give DTR a little more time, you don't necessarily have to devote as many resources to protecting him. That's when I think you can maybe be more willing to take a shot deep, especially playing in Mile High with the altitude. The other thing is the Broncos struggle run defense. So how important is the run game and getting that going? Massive. I mean, I mean, that's been the key to success for the Browns all season, is the ability to run the football. They've turned it around so well since the bye week, and they've run basically on everybody they played against. The only time they really haven't is the second half against Pittsburgh, and that's because the Steelers were really squatting down on everything. So I think that's going to be important. The Browns is going to have to, if the Browns can get an early lead again and lean on the run game and not, force Dorian Thompson-Robinson into too many situations where he's going to have to throw to make plays more than just that 2 or 3 like we saw against the Steelers. If you can lean on the run game and they can, hit those success rate markers, win first down, keep you on schedule, that's, I think, something you can do to really, establish yourself in this game, because the way to take advantage of this Broncos defense, try and avoid those passing situations as much as possible. Obviously, you're going to have to make some big completions, but if you can put yourself in situations where you aren't necessarily guaranteed to throw the football, that I think is your best bet with a rookie quarterback.
Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. As always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Tim.
Thanks for having me, guys. Happy Thanksgiving to all you and all the viewers out there.
Appreciate it. Tim Bielik. Make sure you check him out. PlainDealerCleveland.com. Always really good stuff on the NFL and the Browns in particular. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns. Tyler Johnson from the Faithful Dawgs podcast and Network 216 straight ahead. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
An Ohio lottery machine. The holiday scratch-offs are worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
Non-winning tickets have a second chance.
Is that Miriam Bright? The first ever $1 million holiday game! You can get them now? I'm gonna go ask if I can play.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
How you guys doing? Your boy Cardiac Kid. I just heard that Shaq Leonard, linebacker for the Colts, was just waived. Do you think that's somebody that the Browns can add depth to the linebacking core to bolster this defense going into the latter half of the season with all the injuries that we done had? And some of our linebacker core, like Anthony Walker, I know he's dealing with a hamstring. Is Shaq Leonard somebody we could add in just to create depth, seeing that we're a defensive first team? What do you guys think? Appreciate you. Have a nice day.
And Diana Rossini tweets out that Shaq Leonard went unclaimed, so he is now a free agent. He can sign with anybody that he wants, and they can do it at a lesser dollar figure, and he gets his money from the Colts as well. With that, let's welcome in Tyler Johnson, Faithful Dawgs Podcast Network 216. In answer to the caller's question, I know he's had some injuries. I'd certainly take a look and see. He's a guy that has played at a high level. Anthony Walker likes playing next to him, and we know how the Browns feel about Anthony Walker.
Yeah, Dave, absolutely. I mean, Shaq Leonard now is going to be a free agent. I saw Adam Schefter say that he expects the Eagles to have interest in him, or one of the teams mentioned. and it looks like the Cowboys, Eagles and Cowboys. So I'm curious to see if the Browns I think they're going to at least put in a call, because I think you have to. Shaq Leonard spoke very highly of Anthony Walker. I remember when the Colts moved on from Walker, that Shaq Leonard was not super thrilled about it, but he said the Browns are getting a great teammate, a leader. I think he would like to play with him again. I think it's gonna come down to the dollar figure. What is he willing to take for a deal for the rest of the season? He's battled a lot of injuries throughout his career, and I know that he hasn't looked great this year. But I also think if he goes to any of the teams that Schefter mentioned, or even the Browns, there's so much other talent around him to where he doesn't have to do everything, kind of like he had to do in Indy anyway. So I think he would be a great fit for the Browns. And right now, this defense is what needs to carry this team for the rest of the season, and really has been all year. I would continue to add as much depth to that room as I possibly could. I love the signing that Andrew Berry made today to the practice squad for Dorian Harmon, the veteran safety with multiple Super Bowl rings. He has a lot of experience, going to replace Rodney McLeod here soon. So I love that signing, but add as many pieces to the defense as you possibly can. And if they can go get Leonard, I make that move happen.
All right. So we know Dorian Thompson-Robinson is going to be the starting quarterback, at least against the Broncos. Played better against the Steelers. He talked to the media today about using his legs on the offensive side of the ball.
My job as quarterback is to get first downs and touchdowns. I know I have some pretty good legs under myself, so if I can be able to use those to get some first downs, keep the defense, like I said, on their toes. That's probably one of the worst things as a D coordinator when you got to go against a running quarterback and man coverage. So as much as I can try and help the team win, I'm going to do it. So.
Yes to all of those. And you want to see, I mean, that's a weapon. Use it.
Absolutely. You have to use his legs to his advantage. I think the only thing that I'd be telling Dorian Thompson-Robinson if I was Kevin Stefanski, Alex Van Pelt, dude, you got to slide. Don't use your shoulder to try to run people over. Like, listen, I love it. I love the toughness. We already have Deshaun Watson out for the year with the shoulder injury. We don't need DTR to be out for the year with the shoulder injury. I love just the swag that he plays with. Use the legs more. I think that could be really beneficial against the Broncos team that has struggled against the run this year. Take advantage of that with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. So I really hope Kevin Stefanski uses that a lot more this week, because I think you have to take advantage of that skill set. So yeah. I really want to see a lot more of DTR running the ball this week.
Yeah, roll him out. He throws decent on the run from what we saw in the preseason, and that creates a problem for the defense. But I'm with you. I don't need to see him taking a lot of hits from defenders. And keep in mind, if you went against the Ravens and the Steelers, it's going to get a little bit. It's not going to get easy, but it's going to get easier. This is from CBSSports.com. One thing we learned about each team after Week 11. For the Browns, the formula is there to make the playoffs. Give Kevin Stefanski credit for this. He knows that his team isn't afraid to shy away from the approach. Stefanski went conservative, relying on a defense that has allowed the fewest yards per game, 243.3, since the 2008 Steelers. Well, you know what they call that? They call that good coaching. This is what we do well. Let's play to it.
Exactly. You know, Kevin Stefanski, I feel like he doesn't get enough credit for where this team is at. I mean, he's dealt with 3 different starting quarterbacks, and he's won at least one game with all of them, which is incredible. He's dealt with his entire offensive line has been injured at some point this year. Every single member of that offensive line has been injured at some point. You've been without your 2 starting tackles, because now DeJuan Jones, I mean, he's still not 100% yet either. You have still a revolving door at left tackle. You have Jerron Christian, who has played well the last 2 weeks, but with Jed Wills now being on IR, that's a huge loss. Kevin Stefanski has had his best coaching year by far, and it goes also just around the entire team. Jim Schwartz has been great with the defense. I think Bubba Ventrone deserves a ton of credit for what we're seeing from the special teams unit now that is the top in the league. It's been a great job all around the board this year. And Kevin Stefanski, you know, Dave, he's not given enough credit, in my opinion, because he should be right there firmly in the Coach of the Year conversation. D'Amico Ryans obviously should be there. Dan Campbell for sure. But the reason that separates Kevin Stefanski, they have had their starting quarterbacks all year. Kevin Stefanski has not. He has been without Deshaun Watson. It will be for the majority of this year. He has been with P.J. Walker, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. We might even see Joe Flacco. If Kevin Stefanski wins a game with 4 different starting quarterbacks and this team makes the playoffs or even wins the division, if Kevin Stefanski is not Coach of the Year, then I don't know what these voters are doing, because there's not any more that he can do, in my opinion, to deserve that award, because no one has dealt with more this year than Kevin Stefanski. It has the Browns at 7-3 with an opportunity to potentially contend for the #1 seed and still win the AFC North. It's just incredible what he's done.
And you also lost Nick Chubb, who your offense was really built around. That's the kind of unstated. Your offense was built around how well he runs the ball. Tyler Johnson and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. We'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason, talk a little bit more about the Browns-Broncos matchup Sunday. Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. We continue talking Browns with Tyler Johnson from the Faithful Dogs podcast, as well as Network 216. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hi, Dave. This is Danielle. Hey, I got a question with Rodney McLeod being out with the injury. Who do you think will step up and have to fill his spot? And what's going on with Tillman and Jordan Elliott and all those guys? Haven't heard too much of those. What do you guys think? All right, happy Thanksgiving, Dave, and everyone in the Browns family. Woof, woof, go Brownies.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Tyler, I think eventually it might be Deron Harmon. You know, Ronnie Hickman might get in there till they get him acclimated. Cedric Tillman, I think he's blocking a whole lot. I mean, everybody saw the block on Kyle Van Noy. He is blocking very effectively in the run game.
Yeah, to start off with the answer on safety, yeah, Deron Harmon I expect to be that third safety sooner rather than later. And I don't think it'll be this week just because that's such a short turnaround. But even against the Rams next week, I expect him to be on the active roster by then. Harmon is a great pickup. I mean, you're talking about the 12th highest ranked safety according to Pro Football Focus last year. Had 86 tackles with the Raiders, 2 interceptions, 3-time Super Bowl champion, a ton of experience. Fills that role for Rodney McLeod seamlessly. And nothing against Ronnie Hickman, but you don't want to have to rely on an undrafted free agent to be your third safety. And I think he's a guy in the future to look at to potentially have that value in the next couple of years if he stays on the roster. But with where this team's at, where this defense needs to be, I think bringing in a veteran like that is really smart. And then you talk about Cedric Tillman. He's been great in the run game. I mean, there's no doubt. You really talked about that, Dave. But also, Cedric Tillman has been open. And, you know, I think it's more of the quarterback just hasn't gotten him the ball. I mean, and that goes back to Deshaun Watson a little bit. That goes to DTR this past week. I think the more we get into the season, Tillman's going to be involved in the passing game more, as he should be. But right now, he's doing a great job in the run blocking game. We'll see what happens. I think as DTR gets more comfortable, and even if they do eventually make that switch to Joe Flacco, I expect to see Cedric Tillman get the ball a little bit more. The only thing I was not a fan of is trying to get him involved in reverses, just because that's not really his game. But, you know, Marquise Goodwin's not there. If you don't want to do it with Elijah Moore, I guess you got to do it with somebody. But, yeah, Cedric Tillman, I think, will be involved the more we get into the season.
All right, before I let you go, some areas of the Broncos that concern you, and then some areas that you think the Browns can exploit as well.
So what concerns me about the Broncos is they're a really hot team right now. They play really well at home. It's been a long time since the Browns have won in Denver. I mean, that altitude is no joke. I think that's really one of the biggest things for me. Their defense, what worries me too, is they force a lot of turnovers. That Broncos defense forces a lot of turnovers. Now, to combat that, the Browns can exploit that run defense. That is one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. I expect Kevin Stefanski to run the ball early, run it often. I think Jerome Ford could have a huge game on Sunday. And I love Kareem Hunt. I really do. Go with Jerome Ford more and stick with Jerome Ford. We saw against Pittsburgh, Jerome Ford started off doing pretty well. They went to Kareem Hunt later in the game. I think you just need to stick with what's working with Jerome Ford and just keep giving him the football. And you're going to be able to exploit that against Denver. The other thing that worries me, Patrick Surtain is one of the best, if not the best corner in the NFL. He's going to be matched up against Amari Cooper. And I think you need to, if you're DTR, you got to be really careful about that. I'm not saying you don't throw at him, but you got to be careful because as a rookie going against one of the best corners in the NFL, take what the defense gives you. Because if they're going one-on-one against Cooper, Elijah Moore is probably going to have one-on-one coverage, Cedric Tillman as well. I think Tillman and Njoku and Moore are going to be involved a lot more this week. And it wouldn't shock me if Amari Cooper is not involved as much because they are not – I don't think they're going to want to test Patrick Surtain with DTR at quarterback. But, yeah, I would test that Broncos run defense first and foremost and then hopefully open up the pass game off of that. You need to still make things easy for DTR because what we got to remember here, this is his first NFL start on the road, and he is going to a place that is very difficult to play. The Broncos are on a good winning streak right now. Sean Payton has them playing really good football, even though they're not scoring a lot of points. They're kind of playing games the way the Browns are right now. They're winning games, and it's kind of ugly the way they're doing it. Low-scoring games, forcing a lot of turnovers. That's what this game's going to come down to. Can the Browns win the turnover battle? If they win the turnover battle on Sunday, they have a really good chance to go into Denver and get a win. If they don't, then I think the Browns can end up losing that game. But either way, it's going to be a really, really tough game. Even with Deshaun Watson at quarterback, I thought this is a game that the Browns could potentially lose just because, again, not very successful in Denver ever since the Browns have been back to Cleveland. So we'll see what happens on Sunday, but I am confident DTR is going to take a step forward. I think he's going to use his legs more, and I expect the Browns to have 150 yards rushing or more in this game. I really do. The Broncos are giving up 160. So run the ball, and then open up the pass for Dorian Thompson-Robinson off of that.
Tyler Johnson from the Faithful Dogs podcast as well as Network 216 is always great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Tyler.
Thanks, Dave, and happy Thanksgiving to all the viewers out there and yourself.
Tyler Johnson, as always, great stuff. Make sure you check him out. Faithful Dogs podcast as well as Network 216. We're going to step aside, take one more time out, other side of the break. Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com joins us. Some things to look at offensively and defensively in this Browns-Broncos matchup. It's a video breakdown, film analysis with Lance Reisland. Straight ahead on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
An Ohio lottery machine. The holiday scratch-offs are worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
Non-winning tickets have a second chance.
Is that Miriam Bright? The first ever $30 holiday game! You can get them now? I'm gonna go ask if I can play.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Browns getting ready for that 4 o'clock kickoff in Denver against the Broncos on Sunday. Let's welcome in Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. A video analysis and a breakdown of some of the things to expect. And Lance, Browns have been on a roll. This game, hugely important, a road game with a rookie quarterback.
Well, you look at it. Some weeks you go into at all levels, you go into a game, if you play your best, you don't win. Well, if the Browns play their best, they're going to win. They're better than Denver. They're especially better than Denver up front. And Denver has struggled this year, stopping the run, giving up 5.5 per rush. So for the Browns to win, it's kind of changed, which, as we've stated before, with Deshaun Watson not a part of the mix anymore. Browns got to do whatever they got to do to win, and I think this week it's running the football, running it a lot, and getting in that big personnel. They got to block Singleton and Jesse Jewell. They got two good linebackers, but they get moved off the football, and it starts with being physical and running the ball.
Yeah, let's take a look at the first clip. And you mentioned big personnel. We talked about that. Love this with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, rather. But take us through this clip and what you see.
Well, Minnesota, both Minnesota and Denver, primarily very simple run games. A lot of zone, not a lot of counters, some counters, but a lot of just big on big stuff. So you get big double teams or big one-on-ones. This is just a duo scheme where they're trying to get a hat on a hat, find a double team where it's available, and just kind of move the pile. And they do this a bunch. They ran for 175 yards against the Denver defense. Now, the thing about those linebackers, Singleton and Jewell, is they're very good, but they, like last year's Browns team, those defensive linemen are in their lap a bunch. So, again, I think the Browns got to go with what their run game is. The Browns' offensive line is better than the Minnesota line that dominated this game. So the Browns' offensive line has got to be licking their chops and control this game and protect that defense. Because, again, it all comes back to protecting that defense. End every drive with a kick. Make sure that you kick an extra point, you punt it or kick a field goal. And I just think it starts with this big on big. Browns are more of a zone team than they are a duo team, but it's the same things. Finding big double teams and moving guys back vertically, and this is what the Browns do best.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I would also expect to see a heavy dose of Nick Harris in the backfield as the fullback, because that's another big body that you can get up and get through there as well. Take us to this next clip, what you see here.
This is what I think the Browns do really well. This is a counter scheme. So you're going to see the top side of the line. They're all going to block down to their right. They're going to pull the right guard. He's going to kick out, and then the tight end's going to lead up through. This is one of the Browns' base plays, this counter scheme here. So the Browns are going to block down, and what it is you block down, you bring two. And the Browns do a great job of really bringing two different guys all the time. And this really, really hurts Denver. Again, you're going to see great movement up front. This is over and over and over in this game. Like I said, they ran for 175. A little bit of counter, a lot of big on big. But even in this game, it's front side. It's physical football. It's physical downhill football, vertical displacement, moving these guys backwards, getting their backsides to the hole. And they do this all game. And I think the Browns can do the same thing.
Yeah, and you mentioned, the lead block. David Njoku may be underrated as a tight end who has the ability to block. So the other part of it, you go from the run game to the play action game. Take us through this clip and what you see here.
One of the things you're going to get now is that I've been asked a bunch of this already this week is what the Browns doing sustainable in terms of being, plain and simple on offense and protecting that defense? And the answer is yes. But I think they're going to make a couple adjustments. So you saw the play before where they ran the counter, they pulled the guard, and so this and the fullback. So this time they're going to pull the guard and the fullback. It doesn't matter who, but two are pulling, right? So they're going to show run, and they're going to run a levels concept. This is what the Browns run. This is what everybody runs. Got a guy in the front, guy in the second level, guy in the third level. So I think the Browns got to do two things now. I think they got to throw the ball a little bit more on first down because people are going to load the box. Secondly, I think they need to max protect, run some play action, and take some shot plays with some double moves. Surtain is a very good corner, but he's very, very jumpy. You can beat him with some double moves. So I think they just got to adjust a little bit on first down. Like you said, this is a team that wins with defense, and they got to protect it. And now they've got to make a few adjustments on offense to keep it rolling.
And again, the skill set with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, he is a mobile guy who can throw on the run. So you take advantage of that, and you may see him use his legs as much. Take a little bit more, meaning DTR's legs. Take us through this next clip, another thing and what you like here.
Well, what you get here, so this is another way to get to the levels concept. So it's just play action. What I like about this is a first down throw. So if you look at the pre-snap, watch the linebackers, everybody move forward. And when you're moving forward, you cannot get back into your drop. And when you don't get back into your drop, you create these big passing lanes for a quarterback. So there's almost 9 guys in the box here, and then they run play action on first down, and you can see all those people step up. And what it does is just creates these big lanes and allows for easy throws. And the success of the run game, whether you run power, whether you run zone, and then whatever you run off that. So this is just a play action off one of their duo scheme. And you can see how open this gets just by it's just a simple out route that every NFL quarterback can throw. So the run game will lead to the pass game, and the Browns got to take advantage of that.
And I think you hit the key there. Make the throws easy so you're not asking Dorian Thompson-Robinson to do tough things in situations where he doesn't have to. All right, last clip in this grouping. Take us through this and what we see here, what you like with this one.
Well, here you got an empty set, and they're going to do the quads here. So when you get into these empty sets, Browns do this as well. You're going to get a linebacker on 4 strong, which happens to be the running back from Minnesota. And as good as Singleton is and Jesse Jewell, and I like those two, aggressive guys downhill. Singleton had 16 tackles last week. Very good players, but they struggle in space a little bit. They struggle covering people out of the backfield, whether it be backs or tight ends. So, again, Njoku didn't have a great week last week, but he had a big catch, 18-yarder. He'll bounce back. And I think he's a mismatch problem because not only are the backers struggling coverage, but Jackson is out for suspended for illegal hits. So he's very big in their coverage, and he's very big in the run support. So, again, throwing to the tight end, throwing to the backs, not a lot of reads. It's pretty easy for a quarterback. And put these linebackers who tackle well, put them in space and make them cover.
All right, so we've taken a look some of the things with the Broncos defense. Let's flip it. Look at the Broncos offense and the Browns defense. Take us through the first thing and what you see here.
Well, the thing about the Browns doing a Browns defensive breakdown, as I've done them in the past, it's always what do we got to stop, and I'm not doing that anymore with this Browns defense until they stop playing at such a high level. What they need to do is the first thing they need to do is play what they do, and what they do is be aggressive and make Denver adjust to them. And when you make a team adjust to you as a defense, that means you're practicing your skills and not worried about what Denver does. Now, what Denver does very well is they have a very minimal run game, and this is actually a run pass. They run lots of swings and it'll look like an RPO, but it's really not. They're just pulling people to try to get people out of the box, and it's kind of an extended run game, we used to call it. And all it is these quick throws to try to get to the edge and try to get those 4 to 6 yards to make it 2nd 4 and 2nd 5. They do it very, very well, and Russell Wilson does it very well. Again, he checks down very well. He processes very well. He's playing at a much higher level than people think he is. The only thing I would say watching a number of games is he does not have the arm strength he had. He throws a good deep ball, but he does not have the zip on the intermediate stuff like he used to. But he checks down very well. So Browns got to get up in these guys' face here a little bit, make tackles like they did last week, and take away this extended run.
Yeah, and the other thing about Wilson, still mobile enough to be a little bit of a problem. And mobile quarterbacks have given the Browns some issues even this year. All right, take us through this next clip, what you see here, what you like.
So again, this actually, people say, well, this is an RPO. Well, it's not really an RPO, and here's why it tells me it's not an RPO. If you look at the linemen, they're pulling, but they're really pass setting. They're really not. They're not pulling to dominate or move somebody off the line of scrimmage. What they're trying to do is they're trying to get the defense to go to their left. By going to the left, you're going to create a window out here. And, Marvin Mims, who hasn't got a ton, he kind of reminds me of Elijah Moore. They're trying to figure out ways to get him, but he's very explosive, and they're trying to do this quick game. Again, this is a run game. This is Sean Payton's list. This is a run play. Why? Because it's really, really simple. All they're going to do is fake. They're going to pull the left guard and the tight end, which they do, and then they're going to throw the quick screen out there to Mims. Again, it's not an RPO because the front side of the line is not blocking. They're pass protecting. So this is just a way to try to get guys out of the box and get a guy in space. Extended run from the Broncos. This is what they do really, really well.
When you look at this Broncos offense, what areas of it concern you? Cortland Sutton is a guy, big body, but you've got Martin Emerson who can match up with a physically gifted guy. Sutton has 7-8 touchdowns and not a lot of receptions.
Yeah, he's very good in the red zone. So, again, the Browns matched up I think they matched up the last couple drafts with the Cincinnati Bengals. So, Sutton goes into that T. Higgins, right? That long guy that I think he's not as fast as Higgins, but he's really good body control, great spatial awareness, especially down in the red zone. He high points the ball very well. So I think Emerson in the red zone will be a guy you put on him because of his length. I think in the field, though, those guys will all step up the challenge. Ward can cover him as well. His length gives you issue. Jerry Jeudy is a guy who is not, I don't know if he's reaching his full potential, but occasionally you'll see him in space, and he can absolutely run. Marvin Mims is Stroutman's a good tight end. I think what makes him pretty good on offense is that Sean Payton's their offensive coordinator. And like Schwartz does on defense, he's going to find a matchup he likes and try to take advantage of it. And There aren't a lot of advantages against the Browns defense right now for Denver. The Browns have to come out and dominate on defense because they're better. And, like Bowles, their left tackle, they're going to have to help him a bunch because he'll struggle against all three of those defensive ends. And those guys inside will struggle to move Tomlinson and move those guys. So the Browns are at an advantage personnel-wise. Sean Payton is very good at what he does. Sean Payton versus Schwartz is must-see TV this week.
As always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Lance.
As always, thanks for having me.
Lance Reisland, make sure you check him out. Always really insightful Browns video breakdown and analysis for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. It's going to do it for this edition of Sports4CLE. No shows tomorrow, Thanksgiving or Friday. We will have a special Michigan-Ohio State mini Sports4CLE for you. But have a great weekend. Have a great Thanksgiving. We will see you Monday at 4 on Sports4CLE.